Taking an early look at this schedule, there's two specific stretches of games that had me really nervous for this upcoming season for the Eagles, and ultimately, it's going to play a big part of whether or not they're a playoff team. So with the KBO in full effect, there's not too much in terms of live sports going on right now. However, last week there was the release of the 2020 NFL schedules, and in particular, you know me, I'm a Birds fan, so I'm going to be breaking down the Eagles schedule and give my picks on what I think they'll do record-wise, give some takes on some of the games, and make some bold predictions along the way. Let's get into it. So to kick off the season, the Eagles will hit the road and play the Washington Redskins for a 1 p.m. start time. And if you'll remember, the last time the Eagles opened the season against the Redskins, it was the same year they won the Super Bowl. So could fate be aligned again with that same fortune? I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But I do know that this one will be closer than anticipated. There's some weapons that the Redskins do have, and in particular, young Dwayne Haskins, who's learning the offense under new head coach Ron Rivera. Former Buckeye Terry McLaurin has proved difficult for the Eagles to cover, and that Eagles secondary has always been suspect to say the least, and I'm sure that they will face some other issues this year with moving around pieces and losing Malcolm Jenkins. And I expect this one to be close, but I do see the Eagles pulling it out, kind of similar to what they did a couple years ago, and kind of getting a defensive stop late in the game or a turnover to kind of seal the deal. Week 2, the Eagles welcome the Los Angeles Rams to the Link for the home opener, and this one's going to be a back-and-forth battle. Losing Todd Gurley was certainly a big blow for the Rams offense, but they were able to get a new running back in Cam Akers, and obviously Aaron Donald coming at Carson Wentz full speed scares me a lot on the defensive side of the ball, but I think that the Eagles will pull this one out in a shootout fashion. The Rams have kind of been trending down since their loss to the Patriots in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And I think they're trying to prove themselves this year and get back to where they were. But coming into the Link for a tough road matchup, I think it's going to be too much for them, and the Eagles move to 2-0. Week 3, the number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals will make their entrance into Philadelphia for what will be a difficult matchup for them. I see the Eagles dominating Cincy in this one and coasting to an easy victory. Although I do think Joe Burrow will put up some numbers and show some flashy plays, I don't think it's going to be enough to stifle the Eagles offense. The Bengals had the number 1 pick in the draft for a reason. They're not very good, to put it lightly, and I think the Eagles should definitely win this one and move to 3-0. Week 4 is where things get very tough for the Eagles, and this is the first stretch that I alluded to earlier in the season. This is a 3-game stretch that is going to be certainly a measure of where this team is at, especially in the few short weeks of the season. It's going to be a Sunday night game in Santa Clara, 8:20 start time, Sunday Night Football. Al Chris going at it. Chris Collinsworth, not loved by many Philadelphians, and I don't think this game is going to be fun for the Eagles. They usually struggle on the West Coast, especially with that time difference. The 49ers bring a lot of talent back from their Super Bowl run last year. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have success again. He's going to put up some numbers, and he has the weapons to do it. George Kittle and Deebo Samuel will be the 2 players to watch on that side of the ball, as they're both matchup nightmares. And then on the defensive side of the ball, that's where things get really difficult for Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Nick Bosa is going to cause some problems like he normally does, like he did at Ohio State, like he did last year. He's going to be really tough to stop, and I think that the Eagles will struggle on offense because of that 49ers stout defense. I see the 49ers easily moving past the Eagles in this one and having a big victory. So that will be the Eagles' first loss of the season. Then in Week 5, I think this is probably one of, if not the most anticipated games of the season on the schedule for the eastern side of the state and then the western side of the state. Yes, it is the Keystone Classic rivalry, Steelers versus Eagles. This is going to be a tough matchup. The Steelers are trying to recruit some younger talent and rejuvenate that roster that has always had success in the past, and they still have players. Juju Smith-Schuster, always a tough matchup. TJ Watt scares me when he's coming off the edge. That acquisition of Minkah Fitzpatrick was huge for the Steelers defense last year, and they're going to be tough to stop. It's going to be a fun crowd. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Eagles fans in the stadium, but I see the terrible towels waving for this one, and the Steelers pulling out a close victory by a field goal. The Steelers will beat the Eagles. I know that kills me to say this, but I think it's going to be too tough on the road. Week 6, the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson come into Philadelphia for a big matchup. And if you're following my picks, the Eagles are 3-2, following 2 losses in a row in this really tough schedule. And a third loss would really set them back. And, winning 3 in a row and then losing 3 in a row is a lot to your morale. And that's why I think this is a must-win for the Eagles, and I think they pull it off. The Ravens are a really tough team, and they had so much success last year, faltered in the playoffs, and I do think that momentum may hurt them a little bit this year, but they still have a lot of threats. And picking up J.K. Dobbins in the draft was a huge get for Baltimore. He's going to be a really solid player. I saw him play at Ohio State for a few years, and he just gashed Penn State year after year. So he's going to have success in the NFL, and pairing him with Lamar in that RPO kind of style offense is going to be scary. But I think the Eagles, because they're at home and because they really need a win, I think they come back and after an emotional roller coaster against Pittsburgh, do grab a win. Carson Wentz is going to have to lead a big drive in the fourth quarter to put the game away, and I see the Eagles winning this one by a hair, but moving on to 4-2. Week 7, another home game, sees the New York Giants come into the Link, and you know what that means, Saquon Barkley. This man did nothing but kill the Eagles over the past 2 seasons, and it pains me to say that because I am such a Saquon Barkley fan, and I think he's going to get his. He's going to be able to put up some big numbers yet again. The Eagles have shown that they really can't stop him, and I think he's going to have easily over 100 rushing yards again, and probably close to 150 all-purpose yards like he normally does. Daniel Jones, I think, is the key factor here. He's going to struggle. He's shown that, it's going to take time for him to grow. And I think a couple turnovers, a couple costly interceptions will land the game in the Eagles' favor. So now on a 2-game winning streak, the Eagles welcome in, yes, the always popular to talk about. Yes, it's Skip Bayless's team and I guess America's team, not really, but whatever you want to call them. The Dallas Cowboys coming to Philadelphia. The debates have been hot and heavy this year, as they always are. Is it Dak? Is it Carson? Who do you think's better? Obviously, I'm biased, so you know who I think's better, but I think Carson is going to prove why he's the better quarterback in this game and lead the Eagles to a huge victory. This is not going to be easy. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to walk over the Cowboys. The Cowboys have a lot of weapons. They just added a new one in CeeDee Lamb. But Ezekiel Elliott, just like Saquon Barkley, I feel like the Eagles defense just can't seem to stop him. He's always able to get over 100 yards rushing. And Amari Cooper has also been really successful in his short time with the Cowboys against the Eagles. Again, the Eagles secondary has had a lot of trouble, and I see that happening again this year. They're going to have to really figure that out. They're going to need someone to step up. Is it going to be Jalen Mills, the finger-wagging Green Goblin? Who knows? I have no idea, but someone's got to step up or else they're in trouble. However, Carson Wentz's poise and his maturity will shine in this game. Also, being at home will certainly help the Eagles. I think it's going to be difficult to beat the Cowboys in Jerry World. It always is. But at home, it's kind of a toss-up. It can go either way. I see the home crowd really igniting the team because when it's Dallas week, it gets serious. And I think that Carson will step up to the challenge and lead the Eagles to a game-winning drive and a huge victory. So it's going to be a fight for first place. And I think this win pushes the Eagles over the top. Week 9. A perfect place to have a bye week. Then in week 10, it's back to divisional play, right to the Meadowlands against the Giants yet again. And will there be another miracle at the Meadowlands? I don't think so. It's always tough to beat a divisional opponent twice, no matter who it is. You have that rivalry and that emotion there. I see Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley having even more success at home than they do at the Link. This is going to come down to a Jake Elliott field goal. And in the past, he has beaten the Giants on one of those before. In 2017, he hit that 61-yarder. That was a huge boost for the team early on in the season. This time, he's going to miss a short one. And if you know Jake Elliott, he's almost perfect from 40 and above. Anything under that, it's up in the air. And I think that's what loses the Eagles this game. Then in Week 11 is a trip to the always beautiful city of Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns will welcome in the Eagles to their humble abode in the Dog Pound or whatever that's called. I see the Eagles rolling the Browns in this game. The Browns have made a lot of improvements over the past couple of years. I mean, that's not saying much considering their records have not been great, but they have made some strides in getting OBJ and Baker, who they think is their quarterback of the future. We've seen in the past how drafting a quarterback high in the first round has worked out for the Browns. But, hey, it's a new season. They could have some success. Being on the road is always difficult in the NFL, no matter where you play. I see the Eagles having a good day on the offensive side of the ball. I think Miles Sanders is going to have a big day. I also think this will be a breakout game for Jalen Reagor going up against the Browns secondary. I think this is going to be his coming out party and showing everyone why he was drafted in the first round. Big win for the Eagles here. Then in Week 12, it's a rematch with the Seattle Seahawks, last year's playoff opponent. Russell Wilson and the gang. And Pete Carroll, the ageless wonder himself, will be there as well. Probably still chewing the same piece of gum that he did in the playoffs last year. I feel like the Seahawks are always in Philadelphia now, considering last year they were in Philadelphia 2 times, once during the regular season and then once during the playoffs. They beat the Eagles both times. And you would say, oh, okay, this one's going to be third time's a charm, the Eagles are going to win. No, I don't see that happening again. Why? Because of the Seahawks' defense and ability to limit the Eagles' offense. I'm sure Doug Peterson is going to be changing things up and trying to beat the Seahawks' defense, but this one's going to be another low-scoring game. And the Eagles have not really been able to win low-scoring games in the past. We've seen that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll have been able to do that. That's where they've had a lot of success. Frustratingly enough, I think this is going to be another loss for the Eagles, and they're going to drop a close one. So that was the start of the second stretch of the season that's really difficult, and you're coming off those 2 games against the Browns and the Giants, and then a loss to the Seahawks is a tough blow, and then you have to travel to Green Bay and face Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers. It's a rematch of last season in Lambeau. Last year, the Eagles showed that they were able to get the better of Rodgers and win a dogfight, an absolute dogfight. It was a great game to watch, and I was shocked that the Eagles were able to win that one in Lambeau, and I don't think they'll be able to do it again. I think Rodgers and Devontae Adams are just too much for the Eagles to handle. And how will Aaron Rodgers be after this year and this draft? He's sort of getting up there. Tensions are rising with the organization and him. I think he's going to be out for blood in this game and avenging last year's loss. And I think that this will be a big victory for the Packers. I think the Eagles are going to lose this one by at least 2 touchdowns. I am back and forth on this game. I have been thinking about this one a lot. This is going to be tough. This is going to be the game that I think makes or breaks the season for the Eagles. And interestingly enough, it is against the New Orleans Saints. There has been some history in the past with the Eagles and Saints, and sometimes the history has been when they haven't even played. And yeah, the Saints were screwed over in the playoffs 2 years ago. They should have went to the Super Bowl, but they didn't. And I know, it stinks, but they have vengeance on their mind. Drew Brees is still kicking it, and Sean Payton still with the team. And also, a big thing to look out for, Malcolm Jenkins making his return to Philadelphia. I'm sure there will be boos. I'm sure there will be cheers. Ultimately, this guy worked so hard for the city and played basically every snap. And I think he deserves to be recognized for that. There's going to be a lot of emotion in this game. I think the Saints are going to be ahead in first place. Having the Buccaneers and Tom Brady and Gronk and the boys going after that NFC South division will certainly be tough for them, but I think the Saints will be clearly in first place. So, because of that, I think the Eagles are going to somehow surprise the Saints in this game. It's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. Breeze and Wentz are going to go at it, but I think Wentz is going to prevail in this one. It's going to be that same sort of feeling. The Eagles are underdogs. The Eagles aren't going to win this game, and I think in true Philadelphia fashion, the Eagles will somehow find a way to win this one. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm just feeling a win in this one. That's it. In Week 15, the Birds will be facing off against Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals. They did get DeAndre Hopkins in that weird trade with the Texans this offseason. So, again, another star receiver that the Eagles may struggle to cover. We'll see. However, coming off that tough 3-game stretch in the back half of the season will be a lot and emotionally draining. I think traveling to Arizona will be a nice getaway, a good vacation. It's right before the holidays. It's December 20th. I do see this one somewhat close, but I think the Eagles win by about 10. Then in Week 16, it is finally the return to Jerry World. Yes, the Dallas Cowboys will host the Eagles for a matchup that should be pivotal for the Cowboys because they're going to be right in that wild card or race for first place in the NFC East. A lot of Eagles fans know this. It is tough to win in Jerry World. I acknowledge it. I acknowledge that it's difficult to win there. The last time the Eagles won in Jerry World, I think, was that Super Bowl winning year. I think the Cowboys win this one big, and the Eagles just move on to the next game, just erase the tape and focus on the last game of the season. And that last game is at home against the Redskins, so a win, I think, could either clinch the division or clinch a higher seed in the playoffs. So I do think the Eagles will have motive in this game, but I think Doug Peterson is going to bring Jalen Hurts in at quarterback for more of an extended period of time. Whether he's in on a 3rd and 4 and does a QB draw, or is motioned out to a wide receiver spot and then is brought in on a jet sweep pass or something like that, he's going to be involved in the offense, whether some people like it or not. This game, I see the Eagles jumping out to a lead at home. Carson Wentz, hopefully, please God, Carson be healthy in week 17. Jalen Hurts is going to get some action and some reps, in extended reps at quarterback, and he's going to have some solid play. I think it's going to build some momentum for the playoffs. It's going to build some chemistry with the offense, and I see Jalen Hurts having a couple touchdowns in this game. So those are my picks and predictions. Is it a difficult schedule? Yes, it certainly is. But I do think this Eagles team will have the resolve to churn out a 10-6 record and be able to win that NFC East title. Cowboys won it last year. I think the Eagles are going to take it back and get them a decent seed in the playoffs. I expect Carson Wentz to have a big year and really prove himself, because if he doesn't, there's going to be people talking. And throughout the whole season, no matter what happens, there's Jalen Hurts at backup. Jalen Hurts is ready to go. Jalen Hurts is going to be the future of the team. So there's going to be that noise around the Eagles the whole season. So there's going to be pressure on Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and the whole team to prove themselves. Jalen Reagor is going to have pressure because he was a first-round pick. Is he going to be a star player? Unlike Aguilar, had to get that one in there. Is Miles Sanders going to have another successful season, or is he going to fall into a sophomore slump? A lot of questions. And I think that this team has a lot of potential. The defense is certainly going to be in question throughout the whole season. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not things are played later on, if there's going to be fans there. I know that I'm going to be talking about it and breaking it down with you guys to give my analysis and my thoughts on things as they occur. So that's it. That's my thoughts on this season. Let me know down below whether you agree or disagree. And if you're a fan of another team, certainly chime down below in the comments what you think they will do in terms of their schedule and your picks and predictions for how they will fare. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like down below if you enjoyed. That certainly means a lot to me. We just surpassed over 100 subscribers on the channel a couple weeks ago. Thank you so much for the support. As always, I will continue to be putting out videos and making content that you all enjoy. And for that, I'll see you on the next video. Peace out, everyone.